Look around, we need hope. Dark world, we need hope. Broke world, we need hope. We all need hope, need hope, need hope. Look around, we need hope. Broke world, we need hope. We all need hope. But tell them it's hope for the broken. 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 Tell them it's hope for the broken. Yeah. It's hope for the broken. Yeah. It's hope for the broken. Yeah. It's hope for the broken. Boy, look around, we need hope. No question about it. Can't get around. The whole world around us need hope. No escaping battle. Let's talk.
Welcome to another Healing Broken Souls. I'm Benny Powell, pastor of Greater Second Baptist Church in Marion, Indiana, and I have my good friend here with me,
John Boyanowski. I'm the pastor at Solid Rock Church of Warren.
We're sitting around today and we're wondering what would be something that would really needs to be talked about that we haven't spoken on. And it just came to mind here recently that we have a lot of people with everything that's going on thinking more and more about therapy. Is it for me? Is it for my child? Is it for our families, et cetera, et cetera? And so what we're going to do a little discussion on some of the views on therapy. And when I say therapy, I mean mental health and or addiction. So
what is the difference between counseling and therapy?
Now, the difference between counseling and therapy, to be very honest with you, the terms are used interchangeably, or they basically can sometimes mean the same thing. But when we look at counseling, that's something more that's directed towards some type of skill-based, some early interventions and things like that. Now, therapy goes along the lines of using evidence-based practices that have been studied throughout the years. Now, some of the counseling sessions use evidence-based practices as well, but to do what we call therapeutic intervention is meaning you're going down, you're basically sitting with a licensed therapist. Now, depending on the state and the area a person is in, they still may use the term counseling, but it is therapy. That may be due to some type of licensure or government regulation, et cetera, et cetera. But for the most part, you're looking for a person that is a licensed clinical provider through the state, and with some type of human service degrees at a master's level. That's what we're basically looking for when we say therapeutic intervention and therapy, using evidence-based practices.
Okay. So what would you say is the biggest stigma against therapy? Or is it mainstream now because everybody's jumping on the bandwagon?
Now, John, you walked into something that has varying opinions. Stigma most often is that I don't need therapy. Therapy is for the weak. Therapy is for those that can't handle their own problems, etc. And there are a lot of cultural issues and divides as well that is stigma oriented. A lot of people have a hard time just going into a practice, or they don't want to be seen going into a practice, a mental health facility, and someone sees them going in getting therapy. But therapy is being accepted more and more on a regular basis than ever before because of the information that's being put forth. Stigma holds a lot of people at bay from getting the treatment and services that they provide. And again, I say tomato, you say tomato in therapy, but in cultures, some Asian cultures don't believe that therapy is necessary. You do this and you do that. Christians have a hard time with therapy as well. Just pray about it and everything's going to be okay. But throughout Scripture speaks of therapy be angry and sin not. Let this mind be in you.
The renewing of the mind.
The
and everything
renewing
else,
of the mind, absolutely. So, when we look at stigma, it's what's been imposed on another, is one of the best ways I can say how to look at stigma. Men rarely go seek therapeutic intervention unless something happens. They go get they get in legal trouble, or they're in the middle of a divorce and someone says, okay, well, we need you to go get some treatment for this.
Do you think that is because they, for lack of a better term, self-medicate with either substances or other vices that, they try to, instead of addressing the issues, they ignore them and try to give pleasure here and there, or whatever it is that they use to escape it?
What I would say is that a lot of people use substances to deal with some mental health issues. Like a lot of people use marijuana to deal with their ADHD or their racing thoughts because, quote unquote, it calms me down, then I can control myself a little bit better. Or some people use medication to deal with pain issue, whether it's mental or physical. They're using substance to do with that. But then a lot of people use it for mental health issues, depression and trauma-related issues. So, people find a lot of reasons to avoid therapy by using substances.
We grew up in old times when men didn't share their emotions. They thought it was, you were a pansy for crying. You have to suck it up, buttercup type stuff, and a real man does this. How do you think that has affected us as parents of this new generation?
Well, that's a multiple answer question right there. How men respond today isn't how men responded 10, 15, 20 years ago. Generational teachings has changed, and I'm not going to say lax, they've changed. Men from the 1920s through maybe the 1950s or so, whether they were mentally strong, put out the persona that I'm okay. Okay, I can handle it. It's kind of like, don't take my Superman S off my chest. I can handle anything. And then when you move into, the 70s and the 80s, where what we would call people that came home, young adults coming home, taking care of brothers and sisters, having to grow up a little bit faster than others. And, whether you're a male or female, you became the adult in the home when mom and dad wasn't there, and you what they call us latchkey kids, okay? And so, you're the ones that's taking care of a little brother, little sister. You're the one that's making sure they get their homework done. You're the ones that was making sure that they clean up their rooms, and if mom and dad didn't get home till after dinner time, you were the one, sometime between the ages of 12 to 16 years old that made sure they got fed,
And don't forget the sandwich generation, those kids that grew up in that sort of environment and now they have children of their own, come to find out that either their kids, their grandchildren, or their parents, are now all living under the same roof, and you got 3 generations in the same house trying to figure things out, and each one has different opinions and everything else in between.
Well, and that's a big issue in American society today. I'm just going to speak of America because that's where we live. That's where we live.
Yes.
But at the same time, when you have multiple generations moving in, primarily due to either financial issues or medical issues, that puts a lot of strain on, okay, so who's the parent in the home? And then, depression and anxiety tends to kick in. Emotional regulation seems to subside
And don't forget being tired, period, because of doing all the other work.
Yeah, and that's a lot to think about. Okay, how do I know I need therapy?
Yeah.
You know, how do you? Why would I go to someone and say, okay, I think I need therapy? Throughout the years, I've had professionals, business owners, small business owner as well. I mean, millionaires come into my practice and saying, I need help. School teachers, the everyday layman or the general laborer, they're not really wanting to be there. And so they're really trying to say, okay, I'm going to talk to you for a little while, but if this doesn't work, then I'm going to leave, okay? Again, the stigma, the personal viewpoint, okay, I'm weak, I can't handle my problems, et cetera, et cetera. So stigma, cultural, and, even sometimes, the big issue for a lot of people is financial, okay? Mm-hmm. A lot of people can't afford services because they can't afford it. But what's happening now is a lot of centers are saying, you know what, we're going to give you the mental health treatment whether you can afford it or not. No one's going to be turned away if you can't afford to pay. And I think that's a good thing because 10, 15, 20 years ago, if you couldn't afford therapy, you didn't get it, And
there's something else I think that we're overlooking here is the fact of guilt, And what I mean by that is this. If I take time out for myself to go to therapy, mm-hmm. I'm taken away from all the other obligations that all these other people have thrusted upon me. And I feel guilty because I'm not taking care of them, and I'm feeling a little bit selfish maybe because I'm taking care of myself. Or I'm saying to you, I ain't got time because, between my kids' after-school activities and going home and cooking supper and cutting the grass and all this other stuff, where do I find time to put in therapy?
Well, and that's the one big thing about a person's wellness, okay? When do you make time for you? When you have such overabundance of responsibilities. And to be honest with you, if you can't fit it into your schedule in between, taking care of the kids, going to work, because jobs don't really like to let people go get therapy during the work hour.
They just don't like to let go of people, period. And we'll give you the example. When you give yourself to a job and you put in not 100%, but 110, 115, mm-hmm. 120% of yourself into it, mm-hmm. all right, they like that because you're productive and you're bringing in the cash and you're doing this and you're doing that. So obviously they're going to let you do that, and then they'll try putting on a little bit more to see how far they can take you.
Well, more and more companies are giving what we call EAPs, Employee Assistance Program, where you can go get so many sessions to get yourself checked out.
But do they do that for the people, or do they do that because government says?
Well, you know what? You would have to talk to the ones that implemented it. I can say yes and yes and no and no. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yes, they're doing it because they care about their employees, and no. Because they, some companies don't want to do it, but they're doing it anyway. But a lot of people got trauma on the job from working, fearful of losing jobs. I mean, we just came through COVID and depression rose 20, 30%,
So did isolation.
Kids missed basically 2.5, 3 years of learning their social skills. Mm-hmm. And so now some of them are ready to graduate high school now, and their social skills are not where they need to be. So, a lot of them are coming, getting help through therapeutic intervention. If you ask the average therapist, what percentage of their case includes people between the ages of 12 and 17, the number's probably a very low number, about 7 to 12%. You know, but we got behavioral issues in school. We got depressive issues in school. We got social anxiety issues in school. So whether we go back to the stigma or to the current cause and effects of today, you know, seeking therapy is wanted and it's needed, but a lot of people still have a hard time making a choice.
So I have a question, because I don't know if you heard this or not. Last week in Indianapolis, they had a 10-year-old boy complete suicide. And that totally rocked my world, because it's like, you know, the parents were saying for the last 2 years we've been talking to the school system about this son of ours being bullied and all these other things going on. And I asked myself, did they take him into therapy? Well,
you know, and you have to look at it like this. They have school counselors on staff, but are they doing counseling or are they doing student management? You know, making sure they got the credits, et cetera, et cetera. Are the people that's providing counseling in the schools, are they equipped to deal with those types of things and behaviors? You know, generally, if a child doesn't act right, then you suspend them, you suspend them, you suspend them. Then the next thing, you put them in an alternative school. Then when the alternative school doesn't work, then they're probably about to
be emancipated,
age out, or whatever the case may be. And they drop out.
Yeah.
They drop out. You know, the graduation rate has dropped as well, you know. And then, you know, truancy has increased, you know. You used to have truant officers that would go around and see where the kids were and talk to the parents.
Now they don't even leave the office.
Yeah, well, you know what? I've gotten so lost with how they're doing it right now, John. I couldn't tell you how they're handling it.
I had a former client, you know, because I worked in the same office as you.
Yeah.
And my client had missed 74 days of school. The kid just didn't want to go to school. He either got up and left as if he was going to school and then skipped, or he just stayed at home saying, I ain't getting up. And so they kept saying, you know, after so many days, we can take and you come and get you arrested and you'll go to juvie school, you know, juvie court and everything.
Or they send a letter to the parents, say, hey, if you don't get this kid in school, then you're going to be held responsible.
Yeah, and you could go to jail. And then they say, well, you know, because you missed so many days, we're going to suspend you. Here you are spending 74 days trying to get the kid into school, and then you decide to say you can't come to school now. So the kid wins.
Yeah. You know, and that goes back to, you know, why are they missing school? Yeah. You know, what in their environment is so troubling that they don't want to go to school. They have no motivation to complete school. Again, you know, early intervention on some of these things is paramount. But sometimes, early intervention is not seen until it's almost too late.
Yeah.
Parents don't understand or know the early warning signs of a child in trouble because their generation didn't teach them or they didn't know.
So what can we share with our audience about what some of those signs are so that they can use those as red flags, if nothing else, to be able to say, this is where I need to think about possibly counseling for my child or even our family counseling?
Well, two of the main things that, is observable is depression and anxiety issue or intermittent explosive disorders, things like that, where the behavior has changed from one extreme to the next. They used to be outgoing and now they're withdrawn and isolating. They don't engage like they used to. They don't play the games like they used to. They don't go with their friends like they used to. Or in the opposite direction, they're unruly, disobedient, angry, aggressive. They're not dealing with their parents well, not dealing with adults well, definitely not having good relationships with their siblings. So, there's a gambit of signs, and these are just some of the ones that are noticeable.
What about for the child? And I've worked with children a great deal. What about the children that know and feel that they need to have someone to talk to, a therapist or a counselor, and they try talking with their parents, and the parents are like, "Oh, you're all right."
And see, that's the thing. A child should be able to go to a parent and say, "Hey, I need help." Mm-hmm. Okay, and I'm not going to say that my generation did a good job or the generation before me did a good job. Every generation learns better by when they have the right information, understand when their child is in crises, okay, and not just taking it as, oh, that's just the way he or she is, or it's an episode. One thing
it's a phase.
Or it's a phase. The one thing I tell every parent, even my own children, when a child says something that remotely sounds like it's an issue of suicide, take it seriously.
Absolutely.
Take it seriously. Yet a child may get mad because you're going to take them to see someone and get them looked at, et cetera, but, it's all about saving their life,
Yeah, And you can't take it for granted. How many 10-year-olds do we have to lose before we get a clue?
Yeah, and, we're focusing in on kids right now, but adults are the same way.
Absolutely.
When a spouse sees their spouse having issues and or concerns, then you say, hey, is everything all right? If you can't talk to me, let's find someone you can talk to. So the one thing about therapy is that everybody needs somebody to talk to where they won't feel judged, ridiculed, or treated as insignificant, or that their feelings don't matter,
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to play the part of the person who is not informed. Mm-hmm. Okay. What could you tell me about suicide ideology that I would be able to notice in not just my kid, but anyone? What are some of the signs that somebody may be contemplating it?
Well, the one thing, if they're making statements like, I don't want to be here anymore, or I wish I never wake up, or, I wish it would all just end. I just want the pain to stop, or, things of that nature, or they're giving away things, or they're saying a obscure goodbye, or they're visiting people that they hadn't visited in a very long time, things like that, or they just withdrawn to themselves. Mm-hmm.
And lest we not forget, thinking about a plan of action.
Yeah, and that's another thing. If they have stated they're going to kill themselves, they got the tools and the means to do it, and they have time. They have a time set out for when they're going to do this. These are all identifiers of suicide.
A lot of times they won't just come out and say, hey, I'm thinking about suicide.
No.
They will actually try to be the opposite.
Well, you have a teen that you are in a room and you're cleaning up, and then you notice all the shoestrings in their shoes are gone. Mm-hmm. Or a rope is missing. Or you find out some knives are misplaced, or whatever the case is.
Or stash of pills.
Or stashing pills. That's one thing that is so overlooked in many, many homes is medication that is taken, that for the person needing the medication is being taken correctly. But kids, young adults, even older adults see that unused medication is a what they call an easy way out. Mm-hmm. So you have to be mindful of unused medication.
or the fact that they cheek it or act like they've taken it only to stockpile it for whatever reasons.
Yeah. So, and it all goes back to, okay, why therapy? Why the need now? I mean, the United States government is putting astronomical amounts of revenue into addressing mental health and or addictions. Like right now, we got coming into the country, we got a bad batch. All of it's bad, but a very bad batch of fentanyl that is killing people left and right. Mm-hmm. But to the addictive mind, is what I need is what's going to make me feel better, and they don't mind taking the risk.
And they don't mind taking things that they think are safe, but they're all laced with fentanyl.
Yeah, and sometimes these pills in pill form only got a certain percentage of the opiate in it, and everything else is harmful, So we may be looking at 2% to 5-10% or whatever the case may be. That's why, it's very important for everyone to understand the need for therapy, wellness, and sometimes, you just need someone to, just talk to. If you're of the Christian faith and you don't like going to a therapist, find you a Christian counselor. Mm-hmm. There are some out there. There's some good ones out there, But what I would tell people is that if you're going to a therapist, I understand that it's a time to talk, but, you want to be working on what brought you into that office.
There is actually no stigma with speaking with a therapist, because I look at it this way. I would much rather be healed and have a better life and move on with things that I want to do, what I want to accomplish, versus holding it all in and what I call the pressure cooker effect, where I let it build up and build up and build up until I blow up, and then we don't know who goes out with me.
So you're speaking from a healthy mind, though.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Yeah. But even when we're hurting so bad, we should be, many of us, especially when we contemplate suicide, we say to ourselves, I can't handle the pain anymore.
Somebody once asked me, they said, has everyone had a thought about harming themselves? And, and I said, man, I want to say no, but something says to me, at some point, at some time in their life, somebody said, you know what, I just wish I was dead.
Yeah.
Whether it was an overflow of emotions or whatever, trauma,
circumstances so much, yeah.
So we all reach a point where we don't realize we need help, but, the key thing is that if you see your life becoming unmanageable and you're not doing your everyday things, sometimes, something as simple as a change in hygiene, brushing teeth, clothes, combing hair.
Small accomplishments.
Yeah. Eating, all these things is something that, we can get help with. So, the one thing about therapy, does it have stigma? Yes. Does it have financial costs? Yes. Does it have mental concerns? Yes. Does it have physical concerns? Yes. But here's one thing we haven't talked about. Do you not know that sometimes the biggest barrier between a person and therapy is transportation?
Yeah.
Transportation, especially in rural areas. Mm-hmm. I was talking to some CCOs, and, they were talking about where they're planning to put a therapeutic office. I said, that's fine and good. You're going to put it on this side and you're going to put it on this side. I said, but where you need to put it is down on the southeast side of town in those low poverty areas where people can't get to it and where they can walk, if they have to, we have what we call medical oasis and food oases, and and a lot of people don't think that this is a big problem. But if you don't have transportation to get to the grocery store or to your local doctor or mental health therapist, that's a mighty big problem. I remember living in Chicago with my brothers and sisters and my dad, and we lived on 1600 South, but the nearest grocery store was 2600 North. Okay, so you got 16 blocks to the Mason-Dixon line, and then you still got to go 23 blocks north to get to the grocery store. So we would all walk to the grocery store, and then with bags in hand, walk all the way back, just so we can make sure we have food, Yeah. And so those, even something as simple as transportation, is a barrier to getting therapy.
And let's also, quickly just say about what our spouses may think.
What do you mean?
So if I'm a person that says I need therapy, and the spouse doesn't think you need therapy and everything like that, and they argue with you saying, you're just wasting time and money.
Again, you need those people around you that's going to love you, trust you, think of your well-being, want the best for you. And remember, everybody didn't grow up the same way.
Right.
When you get married and you marry a person, you're bringing two different upbringings, smash them together and say, okay, let's make a life. Okay.
Hopefully it works.
With the Lord's help, it definitely works.
Yes.
But those two people have to start learning how to live with one another. And you're not really figuring out, hey, while we were courting, while we were dating, we didn't talk about what problems we had growing up or traumas we experienced. Men don't talk about being molested. Okay? They don't go and say, baby, when I was 7 years old, I was molested by my father's best friend. The man that I thought would keep me safe, he didn't keep me safe, or my mom didn't keep me safe when she left me at home with her boyfriend, and he molested his sister. Things like that. So all these traumas that you bring into a relationship, they don't get treatment for it before then. So they just carried in their life wounded and scarred. So, even sometimes after you get grown, you still need to work through the trauma and the hurt and the pain on some of these things. That's why I encourage anyone that's listening that if you have some things you haven't worked through, childhood traumas, addiction, mental health issues, and please stay off Google trying to self-diagnose yourself.
Or any other social media.
Yeah, or any other social media. Some of the people that's out on some of these social media, I know we're on a social platform right now talking about this, but find you a licensed therapist to get down to the core what you're dealing with. That's what I would say. Too many people are becoming professional through social media, but the best place to get your treatment and your help is through a trained practice provider.
One that's accredited.
Yes. So I know we've been talking about this, and we're going to come back to this topic soon. But that's just a little bit about what therapy should do and can do for those that will work through it and work with it.
And I just want to throw one other thing in there. If you're going to work in the social work field, if you're going to be a teacher, if you're going to be a guidance counselor or whatever, it is good to take a few therapy sessions, because if you're going to be dealing with people who have traumas that you once went through, and you're working with them and you didn't deal with them, you could be re-traumatized.
Well, when we have providers that go into the profession and they haven't worked through their own concerns, and they think that their education is going to help them get better, and they start dealing with patients, there's a danger of transference.
Yes.
Okay, so you have to be mindful as a provider, that you're not transferring some of your trauma onto somebody else.
Right.
You know, I knew a person that every time they gave a woman a diagnosis, they were bipolar. Every woman when they went to them was bipolar. Well, that's not the best practice, you know. So that's why you want to go to someone that has a good track record, and that's people are recommending. And you know, not every therapist is for you. Right. You know, so you know, if you find one that you or he or she is not clicking, it's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, can I try another person? You know, no offense against you, but you know, it's just not meshing. That trust is not building here, you know. So, you know, you have that opportunity. You know, that's just like a doctor. If you find out that you have a doctor that don't listen to you, then, you know, it's okay to seek another doctor. You know, because I don't want a doctor that's going to come in and say, how you doing? Anything change? Okay, see you in 60 days. You know, that's not medical care to me. Right. You know, so, you know, your mental health is just as important as your physical health.
Yeah.
All right. All right. That's another episode of Healing Broken Souls. And this one was about the importance of therapy. We'll talk to you soon. God bless you. God be with you.
Amen.
Look around, we need hope. Dark world, we need hope. Broke world, we need hope. We all need hope, need hope, need hope. Look around, we need hope. Broke world, we need hope. We all need hope. But tell them it's hope for the broken. 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 Tell them it's hope for the broken. Yeah. It's hope for the broken. Yeah. It's hope for the broken. Yeah. It's hope for the broken. Boy, look around, we need hope. No question about it. Can't get around. The whole world around us need hope. No escaping battle. Let's talk about it. We imperfect people.